Okay, welcome everybody. This is the second physical public committee taking place at the Town Hall. Following the virtual meeting setup that was allowed going forward, all meetings will be convened here, though at present times only members of the committee will be physically attending. The meeting will continue to be live streamed, so I'll be live streamed. Can we confirm? Yes? It says record at the top, does that mean? Mario, are we live streamed?
Yes, we're live, Chair.
Thank you very much. So if I can open the meeting and welcome everyone to the meeting here tonight. In terms of the meeting being held in public under the current emergency procedures, any member of the council can ask a question, any member can attend, and under normal rules ask to speak, and this can be agreed by the chair. To advise, the meeting will be live streamed for public viewing and will be uploaded after the meeting together with the decision sheets showing the decisions taken at the meeting. The press and public will be asked to leave the proceedings after the public business if there is a requirement to consider the exempt appendix of items of the Okay, so Andy, if you want to deal with the protocol. I can read it if you. Shall I do that? You advise that you should only speak when invited to by the chair. If you wish to speak, please raise your hand and direct all communications to the chair. Please ensure that your mics are muted when you are not speaking. If you are referring to a specific page or picture in a report, refer to the page number, please. If you are having technical difficulties, please use the chat function in Google Meet to alert the meeting or dial in on the phone number and using the PIN provided with the invite of the council's website for the meetings page. Please do not use the chat function for putting forward formal questions to the committee or to make other comments. Any persistent or disruptive behaviour will result in removal from the meeting. Okay. So if we can begin, can I start then with apologies for absence, as I understand none have been received so far. Okay, thank you. I have not been advised that there are any items of urgent business, is that correct? Are there any declarations of interest by members that need to be taken account? Thank you very much. And we've not been notified any private business, no deputations. So can I ask the committee to agree the unrestricted minutes of the 10th of May? I don't propose to go through them all, but if anyone has any points, correction you wish to make? Can we agree those? So then it's item 7, residential Bond Street electric vehicle charging points procurement, and I'm to invite Lucia Polinska to introduce the report. I hope I pronounced your name correctly.
You did. Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon.
So can we turn up a bit as possible? Yes, I apologise. I don't just me. It's quiet. It wasn't just me.
I would like to present to the committee this report for the borough-wide rollout of electric vehicle charging points. This paper is a step forward in the council plans to decarbonise the borough and provide access to cleaner transport for our residents. In 2019, when the council declared a climate emergency, we undertook an extensive feasibility study to understand the steps the council need to take in respect of the transport sector to meet the net zero ambition by 2040. In 2020, we carried out a market testing exercise to assess the market readiness and appetite to work with us for the achievement of our ambition in this area of our work. The report has been extensively consulted on within key stakeholders and elected members of the council, and the feedback from the stakeholder group has been fed into the report. The report proposes the partnership model of working with the electric vehicle charging point operators under a long-term concession arrangements to provide a steady, equal and transparent rollout of electric vehicle charging points across the borough, not only to our streets, but also the council estates and internal fleets for people who live, work and travel around the borough. As you can see in this report, we aim to run the procurement in 4 slots and potentially award the contract to more than one supplier. The sustainable procurement strategy objective has been taken into consideration and will be incorporated within the tender process. Once we select the supplier, we will expect him to support the council and the wider public consultation on the project with residents and the borough and the wider public. Thank you. I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments on the report? Councillor Kennedy.
Yes, thank you. I'm glad to see from the report that the work here is being overseen by the Hackney Light and Power Delivery Board, but I am ignorant of the officers and the members who sit on that board, so I'd like to know about that. And in terms of the branding, at 8.4, we say that we hope we will be able to use the Hackney Lights and Power branding, and it is an intention to do that. I wondered if it could be a bit more of an intention, and that we make sure that either Hackney Lights and Power or Hackney is there on all those points, so that we know that it's the council providing and making that provision for our electric vehicle users. Thank you.
Would you like to respond?
Yes. So I hope that I heard it correctly. Would you like the confirmation which cabinet members are sitting on HLP board? Is that correct?
And officers, please, as well.
Yes, so it's the delivery board made of the major key strategic officers who are involved in delivery of Hackney Light and Power project. It's overseen by the cabinet member of Energy, Transport, Ways and Public Realm, Councillor Matty Coban. There's also involvement in Councillor Mackenzie, who's leading on the housing side of the project. And obviously key officers including head of procurement, group director of finance, who is the chair of the board, and all the strategic directors who are involved within the delivery board. In terms of the branding side, there is intention to brand all the points going forward in Hackney Light and Power to provide the equal and transparent access, so residents can recognize that the charging infrastructure is provided equally across the borough. So we plan to work with the supplier to incorporate the brand to our new charging points, which will be installed going forward post this procurement exercise.
If I may just add, Chair, just to assure the connecting. So what we're trying to do with the branding is to make sure that within the tender document it will be specified that the selected providers will be required to use Hackney Light and Power as branding that will sit on top of those lights.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you very much. Obviously, it's a very important initiative and we're welcome to see it here. So if I can move the recommendations as set out on page 4 of the report, which is to 3.1 to agree the procurement strategy. Yes, can we agree with that? Agree. Thank you very much. So thank you, officers. If we can then move on to item 8, Avenue Park Restoration Project, and if I can invite Katie Tompkins to introduce the report, please.
Thanks, Chair. Sorry, as you probably tell by my voice, I'm not Katie Tompkins. Katie couldn't be with us today. She's the project manager for the scheme. Unfortunately, she doesn't work Mondays, and she tried to change things around with the children, but couldn't. So I'm happy to present the introduction.
Could you just say who you are? Sorry.
Sorry, I didn't really see. My name is Mick Beans.
Thank you.
So yeah, thank you. This report seeks approval from this committee to appoint a contract to deliver the restoration project in Avenue Park. The project will deliver the following: restoration of a Grade 2 listed lodges and chapel, construction of a new cafe and community education space, landscape restoration improvements, pathway and entrance improvements, including the installation of a ramp to make the Church Street entrance accessible, and other biodiversity improvements as well. The anticipated construction period is 12 months, hopefully starting in July of this year, and obviously therefore completing July of next. The overall project for the budget is circa 5 million, with over 4.4 million funded from the National Lottery Heritage Fund in a grant. The rest of the capital works will be funded by other grants and council money. That's it, thank you. I'm here to answer any questions if you have any.
Chair, I was back to you.
Yes, of course.
I thought I was going to kind of introduce this, so I'm going to jump in. Just to say a big thank you, I guess, to officers and also to our trust for the way they've put in place in advance of this contract funding during now. And to say that one of the advantages that we have landscaping into the park, including redesigning the Church Street entrance to make it more accessible, which I'm really proud of. And the Abbey Park is, as we know, a local nature reserve site and important nature conservation. So it's vital that we meet landscape biodiversity to kind of restore, we kind of develop that in this process. And also wants to point out there's an opportunity for some cross-cultural children, which will be interesting. We do some design around that stained glass window. So this is a really exciting project beyond the kind of the sheer sort of procurement getting these works done. It's going to be quite an education and I'm very excited for it. Thank you.
Thank you. I should advise members that there are exempt appendices A to C at item 16, and members will need to wait until the end of the public meeting to move or exempt parts of the meeting to seek any words of clarification on those. And, okay, I have one. Anyone else got any questions or comments? Councillor Kennedy.
I'm really pleased to see the use of a ground source heat pump in this project, but I wondered roughly how much of a portion of that capital investment was taken up with the provision of that ground source heat pump.
I believe it's around 90 to 100,000. It's not a huge amount of money in the grand scheme of the overall project. I think it's around 90k.
Thank you.
There are no other questions or comments?
Just to say, I welcome the opportunity for schools and young people to be engaged in this, and it's just another way that young people can be more embedded in their local environment.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I heard the question properly, but I think it was around school engagement.
Yeah,
correct.
Basically.
Just to welcome.
Okay, thank you. There will be, obviously, yes, as part of the development programme and the activity plan. Okay.
Yeah, I have one question, which I think I can address without going to the exempt item. There seems, I noticed quite a big, without going to specifics, quite a big difference in prices between the lowest tender and others. On one level, obviously, it's a very good thing. On another, is this, do you think, sustainable, or might that be a sign of trouble in terms of resourcing potential future claims? If you agree, how would you mitigate this risk?
Sorry, I didn't quite catch the question properly. I'm really sorry, my connection.
I'll do it again slowly, apologies. There's quite a big difference in the prices between the lowest tender and the others, without going into specifics, because we're in the public agenda.
Yeah.
On one level, that's obviously a good thing, but on another, is that really sustainable? And might it be a sign of trouble in terms of resourcing and potential future claims? And if so, how would you mitigate this?
We don't believe so. The project team evaluated all of the 6 tenders received. As you'll have seen, 3 were deemed non-compliant. The 3 that were non-compliant, the costs were very comparable, and 4 of the 6 were very, very close together. So the project team felt that the 2 that were slightly more, considerably more expensive, I would like to say, were kind of slightly out of sync with the rest of them. So we did receive 4 tenders that were very, very close together. So we're very comfortable that we've got the correct pricing. We've got a dedicated project management team sitting in an external consultancy who have gone through in detail all of the costs. We've also got quite a large contingency still within the project budget. So we're comfortable that the figures are there or thereabouts. They also sat the figures, the award, the one we're hoping to award, that figure sat with roughly with the QS's pre-tender estimate. So it was there or thereabouts within tens of thousands, a couple of tens of thousands with what the QS estimated at the outs before the tenders came back. So we are comfortable that we're okay.
Okay. Yes, thank you very much. So yeah, well, again, we welcome this project. I look forward to it. completed. So if I could ask, I can move the recommendation on page 3, which is to approve to appoint the contractor as set out in 2.1. We happy to do that? Great. Thank you very much. So, right, if we move on to item 9, the integrated home care for disabled children and young people contract approval. And I think to start by inviting Stephen Yehola to introduce the report. Again, you pronounce that correctly.
Yep, you pronounced it correctly. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Okay, so we are here to request an extension to the framework agreement for the integrated home care for disabled children and young people from April 2020 to June 2022. The framework consists of 2 lots. First lot is about personal care and social activity service for disabled children's service, for disabled children, and the second lot is around continuing care in the home for disabled children. And we've got 5 providers on the framework. The estimated contract value for the service is 2.56 million, which includes a London living wage commitment for a period of 26 months. We recognise that we're seeking approval for the extension because of delays. This was due to have been done in April 2020. The SDA report was drafted at that time, but due to the pandemic and the council obviously being subject to a cyber attack in October, we've had a lot of difficulties in trying to get all of that done, particularly during the pandemic where our focus was elsewhere on trying to support the families we were working with. So what we were looking to try and do was get this agreement so we can now go forward with our framework agreement. The framework agreement is meeting its current objectives and providers are delivering an effective and timely service whilst trying to manage the increased demand. During the last year, it's been obviously particularly important where a lot of families and children have had to remain at home whilst not at school. We didn't have any reports around care packages not being fulfilled, and actually the providers have been extremely effective at adapting to the needs of the children and families that we're working with and providing additional hours and so on where that's been required. We have regular consultation and feedback from parents, carers, children and young people, and providers demonstrate that families are generally satisfied with the service that they're receiving. We are currently working collaboratively with adult services to procure new provision. We do recognise there are some current gaps in the current provision, which we'll be looking to capture in the new provision. I suppose one thing to draw your attention to, there was a typo in the timetable which we produced, and the business case approval would be for September 2021, with a contract award report would be for February 2022. I think in the document the timescales are much shorter than that. Does anybody have any questions about any of that?
Okay, thank you very much. Just to remind people, there's Exhibit Appendix A at item 17 here, and members, if they have questions on that, will need to wait to the end of the public meeting to move those. So are there any questions or comments on this report?
Well, the comment really that, again, I want to thank officers for bringing the paper and so just to land that point about how our current payment providers did provide that additional capacity and flexibility through every wave of this pandemic and have done a tremendous service. So I sort of really want to kind of land a note of thanks to them, and thank you for putting forward a straightforward request for an extension so that we can continue to offer that care.
Thank you. Sorry, it's quite difficult to hear. I don't think there was a question in there, was there, for me? Just a general comment? No, okay. Okay, thank you.
It's essentially thank you. Any other questions or comments? I have one, if I might. On 631, you say no savings required for these contracts. But on 11.2, though, in the finance comments, it says management action is needed to be developed to mitigate budget pressure over, and I think that's comments over the service as a whole. I just wonder if you could reconcile those, because although there may not be savings required for this contract, but obviously the council's under financial pressure and there's need for value for money anyway. Do you see any opportunities here for savings, perhaps?
Yeah, maybe the wording was a little bit clumsy there. I mean, yes, we will obviously be looking for savings when we're having those negotiations with our providers. we're aware that we need to make sure that the costs that we're children services are requesting need to be aligned with adult services as well, because we've noticed that there may be some differences there. Where we can find providers who provide potentially better value for money, then we'll definitely be looking to, you know, when we've been having these conversations, some opportunities do present themselves. So absolutely, we will look to make savings, and I think perhaps at 6.31, we could have amended that. So we'll bear that in mind.
Okay, thank you. Has anybody got other comments or questions? Okay, then, if I can move the recommendations as set out on page 4, which is to 3.1, extend the framework agreement, and to 3.2, I guess that's no annual expenditure, is it?
I think it's to agree the extension, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's agreed extension, and then there's 3.2, there's item 3.2, is estimated annual expenditure. I'm guessing it's to note that, is it? Yes, yeah, so if we do that, 3.1, 3.2, yeah. Very good, thank you very much. So that brings us on to item 10, the variable data reprocurement. And I'm to ask, I'm not sure, I've got 3 names who might be doing, presenting this report, Kate McLaurin, Karen Alley or Rob Miller, so I don't know who's going to do that.
It's me, it's Kate McLaurin.
Thank you, off you go then.
Thank you. Firstly, thank you very much for having me today. So this report is seeking approval to procure a call-off contract for specialist print services. We are proposing to use the Crown Commercial Services agreed framework for this. When we go ahead, we'll be procuring for a 4-year contract we estimate a maximum value of 3.5 million. That's an estimate because this is a call-off contract, and obviously it depends on how much work we actually need to do. The value is based on previous use, but we expect to see that value decline over the 4 years as we adapt our services for a digital age and change and make more use of digital communications channels like email and text services. However, it is a specialist print service that we do still need. And it is designed to help us when we have surge capacity at really busy times or for very specialist work that we can't do in-house.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments on this? Thanks, Kennedy.
Yeah, 2 questions, please. The first one is around the time frame. Why 4 years as opposed to shorter or indeed longer? And the second one is paragraph 6, procuring for a better society. That is where in the comparable, in other reports, we talk about apprenticeships, social value, etc. Here, I think there was just one line saying, sorry, I can't find
The 6.1 says no equality issues.
Yes.
And I was going to ask that question as well, so we can add that to the response to council.
Thank you.
Thank you. So if I take the second question first, thank you. I think that's a gap in our report, and we should have put more in that paragraph. When we go out to tender, we will be including in the tender documentations requirements around social value and apprenticeships and then the living wage to make sure that that's all in line. So apologies for that. That should have been in the report. In terms of 4 years, it's a balance between enough length of the contract to make it sustainable in terms of implementation, because if we change supplier, it requires quite a lot of implementation because this contract covers lots of different services across the council. So 2 years feels too short, and 6 years I think would be too long because we would want to make sure we're getting value for money. So 4 years, although often, and I'd need to look at my colleague Judith, we can do 2 + 2, so we would be able to break it if we wanted to.
Yeah, that's correct, Kate.
Hello?
Yes, you were just adding that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you for that response. It did strike me that what one could see it's a print contract, and we might have limitations in that, but it's 750,000 a year, and there are also some opportunities in there for pushing forward our sustainable procurement agenda. So, I mean, I'm not going to propose that we delay this report tonight, but it would be helpful, I think, if you could circulate a note at some point in the future to members of the committee saying how you'll do that or how you did it. That's
yes. I'm happy to. Is it okay if I just come in to say, obviously, what's important about this is it is a call-off contract, so it's not, the value isn't guaranteed to the supplier. It's only guaranteed by the work that we actually need to do. So although we've estimated a total value across the 4 years, it will depend how much work we actually need to print. And as I said, there's lots of opportunity over the next 4 years for us to reduce that work by changing our services and making sure that we're delivering to residents in a different way.
Okay, I think I asked my last question was going to be, given that most of the rest of the world is moving to other means of communication rather than data posts, what will the opportunities of savings in the future? But that's partially answered it, I think, unless you've got anything else to say.
No, I don't. Nothing to add. I mean, I think you're absolutely right. There are opportunities for us to do things in a much more cost-effective way than we've been doing them in the past. But we need the call-off contract so that we can make those changes over time and not have a disruption to service. Quite a lot of the services that use this, are really core services like council tax and revenues and benefits. So we need to make sure that we've got a service for them to use when they need it.
Yeah, okay. Are there any other questions or comments from members? Can I then move the recommendation on page 3.1, which is basically that further competition be undertaken to procure the services set out? Great. Thank you very much. And then item 11, variable data print extension. I think it's an extension. Well, yes. So it's back to you, then, Kate. Is it just?
That's me again. Yes. Thank you. So this paper is seeking an extension to the current contract whilst we go ahead with the procurement. And a bit like my colleague before, this paper is late in coming to you because unfortunately the combination of both the pandemic and then the impact of the cyber attack has delayed us with this procurement. So we are currently out of contract and we have a real risk of disruption if we don't extend the contract. And we're proposing to extend it until June 2022, so that to give us time to do the procurement and the implementation of a new supplier.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments on this? Can we move the recommendations as set out on page 2, which is to extend the contract to June 2022? Great. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, item 12, there's an information item, Sustainable Procurement Strategy Update, which is got some great news in it, I think. And I'm guessing it's Rotimi Angelori will be introducing it, or have we got one of your colleagues on the screen?
One of my colleagues is on the screen, just quickly introduce the report and then Marcus will add any more.
Okay, so who's going to introduce it?
Jade, are you there?
Hello, yes I am.
Oh, hello, welcome.
Hi, I'm Jade.
It's quite hard to see your name on the screen, sorry.
No problem. My name is Jade Machita. I'm an interim strategic procurement manager working alongside with Rotimi and the procurement team. And I'm bringing this briefing as a progress update report in relation to the Sustainable Procurement Strategy. And that was approved in November 2018. So procurement reports on this annually. And so this report just details the outcomes and achievements as a result from the strategy's implementation. So the report looks at the 3 priority areas of the strategy, which are procuring green, procuring for a better society, and procuring for fair delivery, which has been used to shape how sustainability is obtained through our processes within the council. Throughout the report, we have detailed the work done in each of the areas, and we've looked at the outcomes that have been achieved since the strategy's implementation. And we did this through sending out a monitoring form to each contract manager, asking for details about specific outcomes listed in the strategy and under each of the priority areas. And we know that generally Hackney has a good track record of asking and implementing sustainability from our contracts. However, this report is brought to you in the aftermath of what has been an exceptionally challenging year for council colleagues. So while we tried our best to get comprehensive information, we were working with what we have in the midst of the pandemic and the cyber attack, which is affecting resources within teams. Who are responding to their business continuity plans and also the council filing systems, which hold information on the contracts that we've requested information from. So we're bringing this report for a progress update, as this is our annual requirement. So no action is needed from members, just to note the good work that is going on in the council and through procurement as well. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. If I may add, Chair, actually, unfortunately, because of this attack and pandemic for the last 18 months, we haven't been able to actually demonstrate how well we've done in this particular area. Notwithstanding, I mean, the evidence in the report are quite really good in terms of how well sustainability is being embedded in terms of our procurement process. I think some of the numbers there are actually quite good in terms of what contract managers have been doing on our contracts. And I wish we could really have opportunity to actually show more of what we've done in this area, but unfortunately, as we articulated in the report, cyber attack is really very difficult for officers to pull out information from the repository system we use in the council. But going forward, just to reassure members, what we're looking to do in this area is to implement a system that sits outside of the council's network system to allow us to be able to allow officers to report directly to the system, and then we can just pull out the data and be able to showcase this to members in the future.
Thank you very much indeed. And can I just add, I very much welcome this report, and obviously about the difficulties you have to get some of the data, but it's really encouraging and pleasing to see the progress we've made in implementing the council's sustainable procurement strategy, and the results we've achieved for the people of the borough doing so. So if I could just offer you and all your staff, Jade and others, my congratulations and thanks.
Thank you.
Is there any questions or comments from members? No. Okay. Just quick. We've got a contract management system. I've talked to Rotini about this before, but we have a contract management system in coming in, I think, October this year. We've just said something about how that will be able to help us be able to measure the success of this and the better data to get through that.
Certainly, Chair. And so basically what the contract management system will do is that is the interface between the contractors and contract managers. So as the contractors are doing this sustainability strategy alongside the KPIs of the contract, they will directly feed it into the system so that we have live data. So members, senior managers can just go into the system and look at it as a live data in terms of how we're doing, not just in terms of the delivery of the contract themselves, in terms of the KPIs of the contract, but also how well we're doing with regards to the delivery, the key commitments we set out in the sustainable procurement strategy. So we're really looking forward to that. I mean, it's been delayed by now, by now we have the system in place, but the supplier was selected hasn't quite delivered as we expected. So we're working with them to see how we can develop a system further so that by later this year, when we think the functionality we specifically requested will be in place and the system will be up and running, then beyond October, as the chair alluded to, we hope that we can then begin to gather the data to the system as opposed to what we're doing now, whereby we wait for the supplier to give it to us, we put it in our EDOC system, which unfortunately we can't access at the moment because of the server attack.
Oh, it's hard to say. Okay, thank you very much for that. Are there any other questions or comments? Well, thank you very much for the report and the work again. And if I could just move the recommendation, which is to note the benefits and outcomes have been achieved in page 4, item 2.1. We know that? No. Thank you very much. There's no unrestricted business, I think. Dates of the next meeting set out. This was 7th of July. Do you want to say anything about that now? Or I know there's been some discussion about having another date, and members are reluctant to do that.
I mean,
I think I can say safely.
I mean, the update that I have from colleagues. So basically, having received the very well thought out observation from the deputy mayor earlier today, so I've been consulting my colleagues with regards to if there are any time sensitive items for the first meeting in July. So if there are no time sensitivity items, I think there are 2 items we're looking at now. If there are no time sensitivity items, then the plan is to move everything to later July, so that we have one meeting set.
Okay, that's good.
Thank you for considering that, and that was, yes, the suggestion that I thought, unless it's time sensitive, we should just reduce the amount of time to convenience time, so thank you.
Thank you.
There's a consequence of that, maybe a little while.
It may be, but then it's still reduced the time.
But it's a number of times you meet is a risk, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you very much for that. So if you can note that, no need to exclude the press and public. Can I just, I don't think there are any questions on, does anyone wish to ask a question on an exempt item, in which case I'll exclude the press and public?
No, Chair.
Okay, then, so that concludes the meeting. So thank you all very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you.